Hello, I am Moonstone. Welcome to Nostalgia Tour. Today I'm going to be talking about a crossover fandom that began to emerge in 2012-ish called Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons. This fandom started when a small group of fans started writing fan fiction and creating art with Rapunzel from Tangled, Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, Merida from Brave, and Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. This small group of fans suddenly exploded into one of the most popular fandoms on the internet. There was everything from fans dressing these characters up as hipsters, pastel goths, basic girls, and any and other big fashion trends at the time to Tumblr. Wattpad was filled with fanfics and ex-readers, and there were plenty of crossover materials from Harry Potter to each one having a seasonal power or an elemental power, to them going to Narnia and being pirates and anything else you can think of. There's probably an AU, that stands for alternate universe, of these four being there and existing in it. But before we can dive into the Brave Tangled Dragons, we need to look at the origins of fandom history. So fandoms have been traced back hundreds of years, but we all know fandoms. But the fandoms that we know really took off in the 60s with the release of Star Trek and one of the most popular fandom ships, Spock and Kirk. This ship, the Spock and Kirk ship, became so popular, people were making fanzines, fan-made magazines obviously, solely on the ship, solely surrounded around Spurk. Okay, I have a hard time pronouncing these ship names sometimes. Sorry. And Star Trek was even the first, also created the very first Mary Sue. After Star Trek, the concept of fandom evolved and grew with more modern fandoms like Twilight, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and Sherlock Holmes took the stage. Now we can look at crossovers. So a crossover is when you take characters from different universes and just put them in the same universe. Some very popular ones is I've seen a lot of Marvel and DC universe crossovers. The Timmy and Jimmy Power Hour is just a big crossover special. And even Into the Spider-Verse counts as a crossover because the different Spider-Men in the different Spider universes are interacting with each other. And there's many, many, many more examples I can pull from fanfics to real-life things. I think Earthworm Zim actually holds the record for most crossovers in a fanfic. But sometimes, very rarely, when the stars align and the planets are in range and the moon is in the right phase, these crossover fandoms can create fandoms of their own. This is how Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons was born. So, the year is 2010. It's a huge year for animation. Disney released Tangled and DreamWorks releasing How to Train Your Dragon. These movies fit perfectly into the internet culture, with How to Train Your Dragon being for like the Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Sherlock Holmes nerds who love anything that has to do with magic or mythology. Toothless, this little guy right here, became the mascot for both the fandom and the franchise. Toothless got a similar treatment to Gur from Invader Zim, Pusheen, Stitch from Disney, and Gloomy Bear, where people just thought he was so cute they just kept drawing him. He's been chibi-fied. People drew him realistically. People drew him interacting with other pet-like characters like Gary the Snail and I'm trying to think of other pet characters. Stitch, normally animals that don't talk and are seen more as pets than sidekicks. He was made into tons and tons of LOL, RAR, XD, low, random humor LOLs with a Z illustrations. You know the ones I'm talking about. But then Tangled, on the other hand, was an aesthetic phenomenon for these teen Tumblr girls and basics. Rapunzel, yeah. Rapunzel edits flood Tumblr and Instagram and Pinterest, where I saw them since I wasn't allowed to have any socials at this time. I was too young to have any socials. Hipster Rapunzel, flower crown Rapunzel, basic Starbucks lovin' Rapunzel, punk Rapunzel, emo Rapunzel, goth Rapunzel. People were editing Rapunzel onto real people's bodies, and soon after, other Disney princesses were getting the editing treatment and making them look punk or hipster, whatever. The popularity of editing / Photoshop didn't just stop with Disney characters. People loved to take screenshots from different movies and illustrate the characters being together and interacting with each other, making both photo and video edits. And since Rapunzel was very popular, she was often put into different universes with different cartoon characters, and since How to Train Your Dragon came out the same year, people loved putting these two together, and pretty soon Hickpunzel was born. Yes, Hickpunzel, the ship name between Hiccup and Rapunzel. And there's plenty of edits to prove it. Yeah. And then, now that we have 2 movies down, we can skip to 2012. It is now 2012. Every Tumblr teen girl has their own Tangled edit as their profile pic, and Toothless is now in the Chibi's Hall of Fame alongside Gurr. And 2 new movies were ready to hit the scene. Brave by Pixar and Rise of the Guardians by DreamWorks. And just like Tangled and How to Train Your Dragon, these 2 movies were also released in the same year, and now we have all 4 movies sitting here ready to be crossovered. So, since all these 4 movies were made with the same medium, CGI, if you just looking at the 4, you can kind of see, hey, they kind of look like they belong in the same universes. They all look kind of cohesive, like they kind of go together. And also, it's said that Brave and How to Train Your Dragon takes place in the same time period, and I'm looking at both movies, I can see it, I can understand that those 2 would fit together. I can kind of see them taking place in the same time period, maybe a few years before or after each other, but around the time period, yeah. And then Tangled's a bit of a stretch because watching the movie, I can't really tell which time period it takes place in. I feel like it's a few years ahead of How to Train Your Dragon and Brave, but Tangled was there in the very beginning of the movies, all lined up. She was in the first, so you can't really take her out now. And then you have Rise of the Guardians with Jack Frost, who takes place in modern day. But there's a twist. If you've seen Rise of the Guardians, then you would know that Jack is immortal and has flashbacks to before he gets his powers. And even though these flashbacks are a few minutes long, right away you can tell he's probably over 500 years old. Looking at these flashbacks and seeing the clothes and just using context clues, you can tell it's pretty old. So you can probably argue that they all took place in the same time period, and with the fact that they're all made with CGI, there are some similarities between all 4 movies. And also, given that each person has a distinct personality, since they're all main characters, they all can fit into different AUs. For example, drop the 4 in the Harry Potter universe. Rapunzel is a Hufflepuff, Jack's a Slytherin, Meredith is a... Why did it say Meredith? Her name's Merida. Merida's a Gryffindor, and Hiccup is a Ravenclaw. Drop them in My Little Pony land. Rapunzel and Jack are unicorns, Merida's a Pegasus, Hiccup is an Earth Poe. And there are all kinds of crazy universes with these guys in it. Just me looking on Pinterest, I found My Little Pony, Power Rangers, Death Note, Friends, Scott Pilgrim, Mamma Mia, various DC superheroes, Marvel superheroes, Sherlock Holmes, The Breakfast Club, Stranger Things, Tokyo Ghoul, Hello Kitty, Pokemon, and a bunch of others that I don't know because I'm not in those fandoms. And the best thing, not the best thing, but because there is no like official content of these four being together and interacting together, this means that the entire fandom was made by fans for fans. There was no like set context or rules made up. Everything was for fans by fans. So there was no like one true canon or true narrative of how the characters should act or anything. There were like no rules. Now, some AUs did get more popular than others. The Seasonal Guardians, which is just... my eye is watering. Which is just Rise of the Guardians, but instead of having, you know, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy, it was replaced with the Big Four, each one having their own seasonal-based powers. Jack Frost was winter, obviously. Rapunzel was spring, but I see her being more as a summer. And some of the UAs I found involving them having seasonal powers did have her as a summer, but, like... So in Tangled, Rapunzel does have superpowers. She does have powers. Okay. And her powers are represented through the sun, and when you think sun, you think summer. So why couldn't Rapunzel be summer? Why spring? I mean, when you think about it, summer is the better fit. Anyway, Merida was autumn, and then Hiccup was always summer. But again, Rapunzel should have been summer. It just fits better. Another popular... My thing is crooked. My piercing's crooked. Another popular the elemental AUs, or the idea of giving these four elemental powers, was another very popular thing to do. Jack Frost had water/ice powers, Merida had fire powers, and for some reason, Hiccup was often depicted as having earth powers, sometimes air, sometimes I found him with air. But have you seen the movie? He spends half his movie in the air riding on top of a dragon. Air should have been a no-brainer for him. And then, because some of these fanfics had him as air, had him as earth, that just left air for Rapunzel because process of elimination. But Rapunzel's powers come from a flower. Like, if you've seen the movie, I'm gonna sound really crazy if you haven't seen the movie, but Rapunzel's powers come from a flower. When she was a baby, she ate a magic flower, and now she has magic golden hair. So, if she was an element, she would be earth, because her powers came from a flower. Where do flowers grow? The earth. So, why was she air? Then, of course, you have the usual AUs. You have the dark AUs, which have the four, but they're villains now, or they're vampires, or werewolves, and they're all evil now. You have modern AUs, which is a universe where the Big Four live in modern day, and they attend high school or college, and it's basically Hogwarts, the Hogwarts AU, but with no magic. And then with the big dystopian boom of the early 2010s, you have with Hunger Game, Maze Runner, and Diversion, obviously a dystopian big four AUs were going to be. And there were plenty of Hunger Games AUs with Merida as Katniss because they both do archery. Hiccup as Peeta since they both are a little on the awkward side. And in the Divergent AUs, I think I've seen the Divergent movie once, and only once, but I know that they're like all organized into jobs based on their personality or something. So, in the Divergent AUs with the big four, they were all just divided into various little houses, if you will, based on their personality. But what was most talked about, most written about, what fans made teen dramas all about was shipping. This fandom loved their ships. Now, I think I shared my thoughts on shipping on here before, and my thoughts are I don't care. I don't care. I don't care who you ship together, rather it be a cartoon, anime, real life movie, as long as it's not illegal or anything and the age gap isn't huge. I don't care. If you ask my opinions on most ships, I don't care. So anyway, you have the original ship, Hick-Punzel, with Hiccup and Rapunzel, which actually became less popular once the Big Four became a thing. The two main ships were Rapunzel and Jack Punzel, Hiccup and Merida, Maricup. And then you have, those two were the two most popular since Jack and Rapunzel had the sort of fire and ice vibe, the bad boy with the good girl. Will she turn him good or will he make her a bad girl? Who knows? And then for Merida and Hiccup, Merida is the adventurous, outgoing one, while Hiccup is a bit hesitant, so Merida's there to kind of push him out his comfort zone and tell him it's okay. And these became like the two default pairings, but as the fandom grew, more ships began to emerge with the Big Four, with Jack or Frost Cup, which is just Hiccup and Jack being a thing. And then Maripunzel, which is obviously Merida and Rapunzel. And then the last and most unpopular, then the most unpopular for last, even though I wasn't ranking them, was Marijack, which is Merida and Jack Frost. These ships were celebrated, debated, and ruined friendships and relationships throughout the Big Four fandom. There were shipping videos and arguing forums yelling at each other on who's a better match for each other. Everybody was making fake trailers with these ships, making music videos and everything. But little did they know that something big and cold was coming. Something that would change these ships forever. By late December of 2013, the fandom had been going strong for almost a year, but then the unthinkable happened that changed the rise of the brave Tangled dragons forever. Frozen! Dun dun dun! Frozen, the 53rd movie made by Disney, released in December to critical acclaim, becoming one of the most highest movies of 2013. If you were there like I was, then you know how insane the Frozen fever was. You couldn't go into any store without seeing like aisles of Frozen merch and bootlegs. You couldn't turn on the radio without hearing different versions of Let It Go playing. You couldn't scroll more than like 4 posts on any social without seeing somebody referencing it. And yeah. The popularity of Frozen didn't like calm down till its like second or third year of being released, no joke. Just in time for the sequel. Frozen had such a big effect on the world that Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons became Rise of the Frozen Brave Tangled Dragons. Or Rise of the Brave Frozen Tangled Dragons, depending on who you ask. The Big Four became the Super Six, with the Princess Anna and Queen Elsa joining the party. And the fandom's most popular ship, Jack-Punzel, was thrown aside for Jelsa. Jack and Elsa. Because Jack and Elsa both have ice powers, they were shipped together solely because of that. And that became the most popular ship, upsetting Jack-Punzel and Hick Jack / Frost Cup fans. Basically, everyone that Jack was shipped with that wasn't Elsa was upset. Fans of these ships weren't too happy when Elsa came onto the screen, but by that point it was too late. Jelsa became the biggest ship within the fandom. Frozen was by far the most popular crossover within the Big Four fandom, so popular that they changed their name for it. But that wasn't the only popular crossover. There were little crossover spin-offs. Now this is going to sound very confusing. You have the original Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons, then its little spin-off, Rise of the Frozen Brave Tangled Dragons, which introduced Anna and Elsa. But the people who didn't like that would just go back to the big the first one that I just said. And then it kind of branched off from there, creating its own little fandoms, kind of looking like a spider web, with Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragons being in the center of it. And some of these spin-off crossovers included the Spectacular Six, not to get confused with Super Six, which had Elsa and Anna. Which had Elsa and Anna in it. In the Super Six, Elsa and Anna was replaced with Mavis from Hotel Transylvania, and Elsa was replaced with the Onceler from the Lorax. Sorry, it's just funny. Some other spin-offs included Tadashi and Hiro from Big Hero 6 becoming the 5th and 6th member of the Brave Tangled Dragons, so becoming the Brave Guardians of the Brave Hero Tangled Dragon. It was something confusing. I didn't type it up in the script. MK and Nod from the movie Epic, there was a crossover where it had everyone, and then and then MK and Nod from Epic being the 5th and 6th member. There was the Big 7 / Super 7, which was basically Rapunzel, Hiccup, Merida, and Jack Frost, Anna, Elsa, with Elsa, Anna, and Tarzan being the 5th, 6th, and 7th member to join Guardians of the Brave Tangled Dragons. Or Frozen Tangled Dragons, since Anna and Elsa are in it again. But yeah. Some of these did get their own names, like the one with MK and Nod was called the Epic Guardians of the Brave Tangled Dragons, and Rise of the Brave Hero Dragons. That's the one with Tadashi and Hiro in it. there was other crossovers with There were other crossovers I saw. There was one with Jack Frost, Hiccup, and Guy from the Croods together, along with other DreamWorks men. There was Secret of the Incredible Frozen Guardians, which had Frozone from The Incredibles, Periwinkle from Secret of the Wings, which is one of the Tinkerbell movies, Elsa from Frozen, and Jack from Rise of the Guardians all together, because the Frozen Four, I guess, was too hard to say, and the Incredible Frozen Guardians just rolls off the tongue so much better. Some of these names are very confusing. Yeah. And as fun as all these crossovers are, not all of them, some of them didn't even feature anyone from the Big Four at all. And none became close to the popularity of the Big Four or the Super Six, depending on who you ask. None of them became close in the popularity of those two. I couldn't find anything on when Rise of the Brave Tangled Dragon stopped or anything, so I imagine as time went on, they just kind of became less popular and kind of fell out of relevancy. I'm pretty sure it's probably going on still to this day, I guess. There's probably a handful of people still in the fandom. It's just not as popular as it once was. Anyway, thank you all for taking this nostalgic tour with me. I will see you next time. Bye!